Internet, it is I, your favorite drag queen turned DM, Shelly Fallon Miller, here to give you my honest review of the new D&D movie, Honor Among Thieves. Now you're probably wondering, Shelly, did you get sponsored by Paramount? D&D? Wizards of the Coast? And to that I say, no, I did not. But if they want to sponsor me anytime in the future, hit me up. Email in the doobly-doo. But no, this is my honest review. I was able to get a free screening pass via a website, and just I wanted to share my review with you guys. So here we go. This is the review. Stay tuned. So here's the synopsis that we get from Paramount and D&D themselves. The movie is a charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic. But things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. It's not a bad synopsis, if I do say so myself. Keeps it brief, keeps it simple, and lacks spoilers. Mine is a little bit of a spoiler, but you're here for the review, so you're bound for spoils. Okay? Here's my synopsis. We follow four adventurers, played by Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, and Sophia Lyles, as they try to get revenge against a cunning rogue, played by Hugh Grant, and an evil wizard, played by Daisy Head. Along the way, there is plenty of drama, action, and enough jokes to keep you satisfied. So, I'm just saying. Not bad. Right? Now, let's get into the dragon meat of the movie. This movie definitely sets up the idea of a long-term D&D campaign. You have your main characters, the issues that they're going to face, and the bad guys they're going to face along the way. There are plenty of obstacles to keep the story going without it feeling too overbearing and too underwhelming at the same time. It feels like a good newbie campaign, as it were. Now, before you ask, no, I have not seen the 2000s D&D movie. Though, after talking to a few people, I might want to see it. Just saying. I didn't have low expectations going into this movie like some people do. But I am a player in long-term D&D campaigns, as well as a DM in long-term D&D campaigns. Speaking of which, you want to see my DM style? Check out this playlist right here for Through the Looking Glass, an Exandrian campaign. So if you're a D&D and Critical Role fan, you can see how I roleplay in their world, and also with my players. So go check that out. Just saying, you can see me and my friends be dorks. The movie starts with a solid introduction into two of our main characters, Edgin, played by Chris Pine, and Holga, played by Michelle Rodriguez. They have great chemistry whenever it comes to their scenes, and you want to see more of their backstory the more you get to know them. Edgin and Holga have found themselves locked up in Revel's Inn, located in Icewind Dale. While pleading for their release, Edgin starts telling his and Holga's backstory and what exactly caused them to be there in the first place. You get a great glimpse into how Chris Pine plays his bard character, weaving in comedy and drama into every word he speaks, including dropping a dead wife and an orphan child as well. Everyone has to have a tragic backstory. This backstory is where we meet all of our main characters that are part of the main plot. Each character has their role to play, and you get a sense of like what each character and what they're willing to do along the way. Of course, like every good backstory dump, there's a main objective behind it. This instance, the whole point is to play as a distraction before an NPC comes in, and they use that NPC to escape. Funny enough, they escape right before they find out that they were gonna get released. Then, of course, we build up to the main objective of the movie. We follow Edgin and Holga as they build a party to get Edgin's daughter back from Hugh Grant's Forge, who is a rogue. Go figure. A rogue named Forge. They start with a sorcerer named Simon, played by Justice Smith. They meet him in Tribor, and whenever they come across him, he's kind of a mediocre magician who has a penchant for pickpocketing the people who are watching his show. Of course, like any good wild magic sorcerer, things don't go his way, and let's just say things get a little haywire. When all things are settled, Simon suggests a druid named Doric, played by Sophia Lillis, to join the group. Their main objective to use Doric as a way to kind of maneuver in, because druids have wild shape, and why not? She has a really good way of kind of figuring out good wild shapes to kind of combat everything. And she has a bone to pick with the Lord of Neverwinter, who happens to be Forge. Forge himself has been ravaging the Forest of Neverwinter and has a couple of dealings with a dubious red wizard. He also sets up the group by weaving lies for Edgin and his daughter, basically pitting the two against each other. But of course, like any good bad guy plot, there are plenty of splinter storylines that we get into. For instance, Daisy Head's character, Sophina, a red wizard of Thay, is trying to spread the influence of the red wizards into the lands of Faerun by using a magical artifact to bring a horrible end to the city of Neverwinter. While Forge is just there for a big payday. He brings back these games that were disbanded long ago, and he invites wealthy people from all over the Sword Coast to basically pick their pockets in a fashionable way. Along the way, they meet a noble paladin by the name of Zank, played by Regé-Jean Page, who, by the own actor's admission, is a lawful good bordering into lawful boring type of character. But I kind of want to agree with that, but he exudes that NPC, like high-level NPC vibe that every DM has in their campaign. Like they're there to just be a mere face as they walk in and like solve the problem for the group and then just walk into the horizon, which he literally does. He just like literally goes straight back into whatever world he walked into. And hey, that's perfectly a-okay. Of course, there are plenty of hijinks and action along the way that builds up to a final boss fight that puts you on the edge of your seat. You can definitely see the ideas of some of the moves used in the movie in your own campaign, with the druid wild shaping, the barbarian raging, and the sorcerer using their magics to help their friends. Whenever it's all said and done, the boss is beat, but at a cost. Olga is stabbed with a red wizard blade, which we come to find out early in the movie is poisoned and causes certain death. Edgin has to decide whether or not to bring back his long dead wife or Olga herself. His daughter reminds him that family is not just the normal family dynamic and is made up of a lot of people who are willing to come to your aid. Edgin brings back Olga, and there's a happy ending. There's also a little bit of a hint of a possible sequel along the way with how things are set up for Forge and possible interactions with the Red Wizards of Thay in later movies. If you're wondering if there is a mid or post-credit scene or scenes, you're in for a treat. There is a brief mid-credit scene, but I won't spoil it for you. Just know it's cute and fun. Let's get into the D&D Easter eggs of it all. You're probably wondering, how does it pan out with like the D&D lore and things like that? And trust me, I'm going to have a video about the lore and places that are in the movie. Subscribe to the channel and you'll see it. Let's start with magical items, and trust me, there are plenty of magical items to be seen. Olga's Dark Steel Great Axe is really great because though there isn't a stat block yet for the Dark Steel Great Axe on D&D Beyond, there is mention in some of the lore about Dark Steel and kind of like where it comes from in the world of D&D. We have Simon's Wild Magic device, which is kind of cool because it plays like a wild magic chart without saying like, hey, roll for this wild magic thing. There's also the Helm of Disjunction, which requires attunement. I think that's really cool. Like, one of the main problems that we see in the movie is Simon not being able to attune to that item because there's something in the way. And I like how they use that dynamic of like attunement doesn't come naturally. It comes at a very long time coming. Like you have to have a short rest basically if you're playing in a game. It's short rest for attunement, and if you even have a long rest for attunements, it all depends on how your DM works on your campaign. Now, there's one magical item that I thought was very interesting, and it's this horn that Sophina the Red Wizard uses. It has a spell called Beckoning Death, which seems like an area effect spell, and I was thinking that it might be the Horn of Orcus. The Horn of Orcus was included in Campaign 1 of Critical Role, which is similar to the Wand of Orcus, which is in D&D lore, and has a spell attached to it called Circle of Death, which might have some sort of association. I'm just spitballing here, but tell me what you think. Tell me what you think down in the comments, all right? So, besides the fact that this plays like several D&D sessions, you see our adventurers actually travel like by foot and also like by horse. Our adventurers have to travel a lot of places in northern part of Faerun, which is a location popular for D&D books, including the Lost Mines of Fandelier and Icewind Dale, where I'm in the Frostmaiden. That's actually where we start the movie, is in Icewind Dale in Revel's End. For instance, my first campaign as a player was a one-shot that basically turned into a 2-week sped-up campaign. That was a homebrewed version of Lost Mines of Fandelier. My character was Lashana Dosk. She was a cleric of Tyr who was based in Utar, which is in northern Faerun, and was looking to help the people of Phandalin with their issues. Edgin and Holga even mentioned traveling to Baldur's Gate in Waterdeep to find Forge and Edgin's daughter, before their whole idea is thwarted with one passive perceptive look at the back of a flyer, which is hilarious. I think that was a really cute little Easter egg. For those looking for popular adventures in the Sword Coast, check out Waterdeep Adventures, Dragon Heist, and Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. I, for one, have played a Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage campaign, which resulted in my character dying twice, despite being the party's cleric. And yes, it was the same cleric from my first ever. Speaking of campaigns, are you looking for your own campaign but don't have a DM or a group to play with? Well, check out StartPlaying.games, where you can find a D&D campaign starting every day. Or if you're interested in other TTRPGs, you can find a game just for you. They have everything from thirsty sword lesbians to cyberpunk. I am a GM over at Start Playing Games and host a myriad of one-shots for those wanting to get their feet wet and enjoy D&D. Use the link in the cards up there to sign up and start playing today. Let's think of the theme of this overall movie. I, for one, have found out the theme to be found family. And if you think about it, all D&D campaigns are very much a found family dynamic. Why else would a group of random people come together and try to fight an evildoer, except for the fact that they are trying to protect their newfound family? I, for one, give this movie a 9 out of 10. I know. There's great CGI and practical effects, great dialogue, great action, great drama, and honestly, there are times that you're going to be Leonardo DiCaprio in a seat, pointing at the screen going, I know that. So, of course, if you like D&D and TTRPG content, make sure you like this video, sub to this channel, and make sure you check me out everywhere. My links are in the doobly-doo. I've been Shelly, and I will see you on the internet. Bye.